Hello, my internet friend. This is Soph. Are you torn between the prestige of a in-person MBA program and the practicality of a online, more affordable option? Well, you are not alone. In this video, I'm diving into exactly that. What are some of the things you should consider? And spoiler alert, I will be sharing my journey on why I ultimately chose the online MBA option. In my opinion, there are 5 things you should consider while trying to decide between an in-person MBA program versus an online version. The 5 things you should consider include money, return on investment, time commitment, sense of community or networking, and the 5th one is the fun component. For each of the 5 considerations, I will talk about the questions you should ask yourself, as well as what my thoughts were at the time while trying to decide. The first consideration is money. There is no need to talk about how expensive these programs are. Both are very expensive, and we're talking about at least $100,000. Obviously, the first thing you should consider is how are you going to pay for that tuition? Do you have enough money in the savings? If not, can you take out a student loan to cover the tuition? The second thing you should consider here is the opportunity cost. If you choose to go to school in person, then your opportunity cost is the pay that you would have gotten in those 2 years had you been working. In other words, how okay are you and how okay is your life if you didn't have that monthly paycheck coming in? The third consideration here is, are there scholarship opportunities that you can take advantage of? If you are a female, then there is the Forte Foundation scholarship that is automatically part of the admission process. On top of that, there are many other scholarship opportunities. Will you qualify for any of those? And lastly, this can be big if your employer provides some sort of educational incentive. And that is, does your company, your current employer, do they provide any sort of financial assistance? I had a friend who went to a full-time MBA program, and his employer signed a contract with him to say, I will pay for your tuition in its entirety if you come back and work for us for 2 years after graduation. That, in my opinion, is a very good deal. However, some employers don't provide programs or contracts that are that lucrative, but it doesn't stop you from finding out other financial support from your employer. For example, are there reimbursement for tuition that you can take advantage of? That should play into whether you choose the full-time or online MBA, because from what I understand, some MBA programs that are part-time may not qualify for your company's policy. So figure out what those policies are. Say, for example, if your company says you need to be taking 12 credits in your program to qualify for the educational reimbursement, then maybe your full-time MBA program does qualify versus your online program doesn't qualify. In that situation, you need to make a choice. When I was deciding between the full-time versus online MBA, the choice was relatively easy for me because I can afford the tuition of $100,000, but only if I worked at the same time. So I could not afford the opportunity cost of not working for 2 years. That made the decision really easy for me. On top of that, what skewed me toward the online MBA direction is that I got a $20,000 scholarship from USC's online MBA program, and that instantly made it a lot more attractive for me. The second thing you should consider is the return on investment. And there is one straightforward question you need to ask yourself, and that is, does the school and its reputation and network provide a good outlook on job opportunities after you graduate. Most of us are going into an MBA program hoping for promotion opportunities at your existing company or a promotion at a brand new company. In my opinion, the in-person MBA programs typically have a better reputation and a better network for you to find a job after graduation. A lot of good schools are now having online MBA programs. Your Harvard and Stanford still doesn't have online options, but a lot of good schools now, such as USC, provide online program for you to kind of capitalize on their reputation and their network. When I was applying, my considerations were, at the time I was living in Pennsylvania, I knew that eventually I wanted to move to California, and I know that USC has more connections and network on the West Coast, especially in California. And if I do attend an online program, it does offer me opportunities to travel to California to kind of gauge the vibe and see where I want to move to eventually in California, and just kind of talk to the people and get to know the area a little bit better. The third thing you need to consider while making the decision is time commitment. This is especially a huge consideration if you're kind of skewing toward the online MBA. And the question you need to ask yourself is, can you realistically do work and school at the same time? And by realistic, I mean tracking down hours you spent a week working, and that includes commute time. And you need to add that number to the estimated time the school is telling you to spend per week and see what that number is. If you are already working 50 hours a week and the school is asking you to put in 30 hours a week, that's 80 hours a week. That is not realistic. 50 hours a week of work translates to 10 hours per day of work. 20 hours a week of schoolwork translates to about 2.8 hours to 4 hours per day. Be realistic and honest with yourself when you're making this calculation, or else your life is gonna be miserable. And the second question you need to ask yourself here is that if you've decided that you can realistically manage work and school at the same time, there is going to be time where school is becoming a little bit more demanding. For example, right before midterms or right before finals. When that happens, does your work provide flexibility for you to shift your focus to school? When I was making this decision, my work was really chill. I work from home. There's no commute time for me. And work is anywhere between 35 to 40 hours a week. So realistically, adding schoolwork in there was no problem. And if schoolwork becomes really heavy temporarily, I have the flexibility to focus more on schoolwork, because my manager at the time was actually the person who encouraged me to get an MBA. So she was more than willing to kind of provide that flexibility for me. The fourth thing you need to consider is the sense of community, or in other words, networking. And the question you need to ask yourself here is that, is the networking opportunity significantly less in the online MBA program compared to the full-time in-person MBA program? My personal perception is that online MBA program naturally has less networking opportunities because you don't get to go to career fairs if you're not in the same physical location as your school, nor do you see your classmates every single day and become best friends with them. So here I think that you need to accept that the online program provides less networking opportunity, but the question you need to figure out is how much less networking opportunity is acceptable to you. An example to illustrate this point is that if on one hand we have a in-person MBA program that has the traditional running into your classmate before and after class and working in a project in person with them and going to career fair, and on the other hand you have a online MBA program that has virtually no networking opportunities besides a online database, then obviously the choice is pretty obvious. All else equal, you would choose this in-person MBA program, because the trade-off of a lot of networking versus no networking is not acceptable to me. But we have the same in-person MBA program. However, on the other hand, the online MBA program is one that provides virtual networking events, alumni networks, even one-on-one mentor-mentee programs. Given all else are equal, I don't know, these both options are pretty good. If this online program happens to be a lot cheaper, guess which I'm going to pick? Of course, this online program. When I was making this decision, I noticed that the online program I was considering at the time, USC's online program, has a residential week, where like for I think a week or 2 weeks, you are just stuck on campus with the rest of your classmates doing schoolwork under really high stress conditions. And I thought that would lead to really strong connections. On top of that, there is a mentor-mentee pairings and a big alum network. The last thing you need to consider here is the fun component. You can't do anything unless it's at least a little bit fun, right? Like, why make the MBA program miserable when you can have a little bit of fun? Now, obviously, when you have a in-person program, you get to hang out with your classmates before and after class, and you get to go on trips with your classmates. You don't need to worry about work at all, and just school and chilling at library while drinking coffee with your classmates. That sounds pretty wonderful. For an online MBA program, you need to work, and all of your classmates need to work. Nobody has that much leisure time for you to all hang out. So the question you need to ask yourself here is, having fun for those 2 years worth the other considerations, such as not getting paid for 2 years? When I was making this consideration, it was really obvious for me. I would love to be a full-time student and not worry about anything else, but my wallet does not allow me to do that, so I had to opt for the less fun online MBA. All right, those are the 5 things that I think you should consider while trying to figure out whether you want to go to a in-person MBA program or a online MBA program. I will see you back here again soon. Bye.